This is Steve. I'm doing one more quick audio test. So now if my voice is breaking, I think that may be on your side. Might be worth logging out and logging back in again. So Jason, I did not know you were in Tennessee.
I am indeed, just outside of Chattanooga.
Well, I'm in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah, so yeah, neighboring. I'm a good solid 3 hours from you, I think, at this from where I am. So.
Yes, but equally cool cities.
Agreed. Asheville is one of my favorite southern cities. It looks like we've got people from all over the world, which is great. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Yeah, Sue, someone just pinged from Australia. Actually, I just saw it go past. Yeah, Melly. Hi, Melly. Melly is from Australia.
Okay, and I've turned the YouTube stream on. So we should also be having some folks joining us through YouTube who may be having trouble getting into Blackboard Collaborate. Seems to be working. Okay, we're at the 5-minute mark. That means that we'll be starting in 5 minutes. We do start on time, so thanks for being here early. It's fun to see where you're from. If you enjoy that kind of thing, you could also tell us what time it is where you are in the world. Okay, wait, who's 3 a.m.? Taipei.
Jay Dewar in Cook Nashville, Tennessee. I can practically drive to you from where I am, so I'm just down the road.
We have a 3 a.m. in Taipei. We have a 5 a.m. in Australia. So Jason, when we hit that top of the hour mark, I'm going to turn on the record button. We'll get us started quickly. I'll turn it over to Sandy, and then she'll turn it over to you.
Sounds wonderful. I'm ready, excited. This is a wonderful crowd. See another Tennessee, Oak Ridge, again, just down the road from me. Hi, waving at all my Tennessee folk.
I always love to see somebody attending for the first time at an online conference. So now, welcome. Hope the audio treats you well. Where are you? Where in the world are you? Welcome, Sanal from India. Welcome, Chris from the Palo Alto City Library. Welcome, Sanal from Chris from the Library. I grew up going to that library on Middlefield Road. Okay, we're just under a minute away. When we start at the top of the hour, I'm going to click the record button. We'll do a short intro, and then we'll move right through to Dr. Hirsch and to Jason.
Recording started.
Hi, it's Steve Hargadon, and welcome to our mini conference, Library 2.018, Blockchain Applied, Impact on the Information Profession. We're delighted that you're here. Our opening keynote speaker is Jason Griffey. We welcome him. Thanks to the School of Information at San Jose State University, our founding partner for the conference and the series. It's been a wonderful relationship, and we're so glad to be doing this. We're going to skip this map slide. But those of you who are from different places in the world, please keep putting that in the chat, and I'm going to turn our time over to Dr. Sandra Hirsch.
Hi, and welcome everyone. I'm Sandy Hirsch. I am the director of the School of Information at San Jose State University, and we're thrilled to be the founding sponsor of the Library 2.018 conference, which is started in 2011. And this conference was funded generously by the Institute of Museum and Library Services as part of an IMLS grant that was awarded to me and to my colleague Sue Allman at our school. And I was going to show you a couple related events that might be of interest to you since you are attending this conference. One of the other things that our IMLS grant is funding is the Blockchain National Forum that's going to be held here in San Jose on August 6th. And we're really pleased that there's going to be a live stream of that one-day conference. This conference is bringing together experts in blockchain from all over to have important discussions about how blockchain might be applied or used in the information field. And so I encourage you to attend that live stream if you are interested in learning more. Also, Sue and I are going to be doing a free webinar. I should mention that live stream is free, but we're going to be doing a free webinar through the American Library Association in September 24th, that's going to summarize some of the recommendations that come out of this IMLS grant that through the Blockchain National Forum and this conference that we're holding today. So I encourage you to attend that free conference, free webinar if you're interested. And also Sue and I are going to be writing a book or editing a book on blockchain as part of the Library Futures series that's going to be published by ALA Publishing in the spring of 2019. So you might be interested in knowing about that for the future as well. And I also mentioned that you might be interested in the blog and the website. All this information is available, and it's at the bottom of that slide right there. So now I'd like to turn our attention to our opening keynote. We are so pleased to have Jason Griffey to join us today to give us this opening keynote. He is the founder and principal at Evenly Distributed, which is a technology consulting and creation firm for libraries, museums, education, and other nonprofits. And he's also an affiliate fellow at the Berkman Klein Center for Internet and Society at Harvard University, as well as being the creator and director of the Library Box, which is an open source portable digital file distribution system. But Jason, one of the things that he's an expert in is in technology, and particularly in blockchain. So we're very lucky to have him join us today to give the opening keynote and give us an overview of blockchain technology. So I'd like to turn it over to him now. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you so much, Sandy. I appreciate very much that the kind introduction. Thank you to SJSU and IMLS and everyone else that has been associated with this project. I've been very, very happy to be affiliated with it and to continue to be affiliated with it. Thanks to everyone from all around the world that is joining us today. Hopefully everyone, Andrew, yes, you should be hearing me. Hopefully everyone can hear me at this point. And I'm going to spend the next 20 or so minutes, a little more than 20 minutes, talking about, obviously, blockchain. We're going to spend a whole lot of time this afternoon learning about a lot of possibilities and potential for blockchain. But what I want to do is give a very broad overview. I'm not going to get into the technical weeds because honestly, we could spend 2 or 3 hours just talking about the technical aspects of how a blockchain works. I don't think that that's actually the most interesting part. I mean, it's interesting to me because I am a geek, but I think for the information profession writ large, it's much more interesting to think about the potential, the possibilities, and strengths and weaknesses of this new technology. So that's the way that I want to kind of approach this opening keynote. And a little too far there. Sorry, I don't know why that went. There we go. So the way that the word that is most often used as a metaphor for what blockchain is that of a ledger, and that's correct. Obviously, I think everyone here probably has an idea that blockchain is associated with, originally associated with the cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. It was kind of invented as a part of the larger structure of this currency exchange called Bitcoin. The pieces that make up a blockchain aren't unique to Bitcoin. That is, the things that are going on under the hood. Encryption, public key encryption, hashing, all of those things, proof of work, those are not original to blockchain. It's the way that everything was put together that made it interesting and a new kind of tool for people to use in information exchange online. But as a ledger, it's actually quite interesting. It has some features that no other ledger, again, because of the underlying technology, has ever had, and that is, it is a ledger that can act person to person. That is, it can record information exchange, right, from one person to another person, and it can do that without any sort of central authority. That is, there's no kind of there's no referee when an exchange of information is happening. It doesn't go through any central portal. It doesn't get held by anyone that determines, any central organization that determines whether the information is correct or right. There is no sort of central place of failure. There is no individual organization that controls how the system that is built on how blockchain systems typically work. It's also a ledger that can be compiled. You can compile a ledger of information transfers when the people involved in it don't necessarily trust each other. This is obviously sort of important when it comes to things like cryptocurrencies, where you're actually exchanging, ostensibly, you're exchanging something that has value, actual monetary value. We can maybe argue about that in another session, whether or not currencies have value when they're digital. But you need to have some trust when you're exchanging objects of value, and the system that blockchain is built around, the kind of technologies allow for the transfer of information via untrusted parties. For those of you that are database savvy, if you understand blockchain in terms of just a form of structured data, like any kind of database, imagine how difficult it is to have a database where you can have anybody that wants to write into it, right? That the parties writing to this database are untrusted and don't necessarily know what the correct way to do that is. That's one of the things that blockchain overcomes. You don't have to have a trusted relationship in order to have somebody write data to your ledger. In most blockchain systems, this is not necessary for blockchain. You can have private blockchains, but in the ones that we are normally talking about, and the blockchains that we typically think of, the Bitcoin blockchain and some of the other larger blockchain instantiations, the blockchain is actually the actual data store. The chain itself is shared among everyone that's involved in the system. So everyone has access to verify what the ledger says. So it's like having open books, right? In an actuarial or an accounting sense, anyone can come in and verify that the information is what someone claims it is. So you have the ability to independently verify the information that's being shared. And because of the way blockchain is built, again, because of some of the technologies, particularly what's called proof of work, blockchain information that is written to a blockchain is incredibly resistant to manipulation. In very robust blockchains, like, again, sort of the Bitcoin blockchain or other highly used blockchain systems, it actually becomes very quickly impossible to change information that has already been written to the ledger. There's no going back and erasing a number and then adding a new number, right? You can't change it. And this is important, again, for currencies, particularly because of the opportunity for spending the same dollar twice, right? Spending the same coin twice. You don't want someone to be able to send someone money and then send someone else the same money. They have to send them different money. And the way that you ensure that happens is that you make your ledger resistant to being manipulated. You don't want anybody cooking the books, so to speak. And so all of these things come as a part of the typical instantiation of a blockchain. There is no central authority. People that transmit information on it don't have to be trusted. Everyone gets to see the information that is exchanged, and the information as it is added is robustly resistant to being manipulated in the future. These things are what make a blockchain-based system different than traditional information storage systems, right? And different than ledgers, different than other sorts of databases. These are the things that set it apart and make it interesting. The other thing that makes it interesting for me, and this is one of the things that I'm going to talk about throughout the rest of the presentation, is that blockchain systems can be highly, highly decentralized. There's no, because there's no center, because there's no central authority, the data that is held can be held by everyone involved in the system. And as a result, it means that there's no central point of failure for the system. So if you think about it in terms of sort of network robustness, right? If Amazon goes down, then as we've seen over the course of the last year, many things on the internet just break, right? If if Apple goes down, we have problems with our iPhones and our iOS devices. In a system that is truly decentralized, you don't have any sort of central point of failure. And blockchain systems typically are so that they are decentralized, spread apart in many, 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 many places. There's no there, so to speak. So you have not only resistance to failure, but you also have a robust resistance to control or censorship. And so for those of us in the library world, there have been a couple of interesting examples of blockchain systems being used to bypass government-level censorship throughout the world. So this sort of, again, resistance to control adds the ability for people to share the information they want to share in places that they want to share it, and to have that be a capability of these new emerging decentralized systems that are built on top of blockchain. The other thing that decentralization does that, again, I am particularly interested in my research and work is that it flattens out the power involved in a system. When you have centralized systems, all of the power tends to reside in and when I say power, I mean literal power, the decision-making, control, who can participate, all of those sorts of decisions are made by a central authority. Facebook decides who is or is not on their system. They decide what they are allowed or not allowed to say. They decide who they are or who they are not allowed to talk to, right? And in systems that are decentralized and built on top of blockchain or blockchain-like technologies, there is no central method of control. And so you get a much more robust amount of what in the US we would term the freedom of speech. not entirely all upsides. It also means that people can speak in ways that we as a society may disagree with, but it does mean that the systems that are built on top of these new technologies do flatten the power structures involved in these systems, which I think is super interesting and super exciting. And we'll get to a couple of examples here in just a second where I think that might be illustrative. So I have 4 examples that I want to talk about that I think are examples of systems that could be instantiated on a blockchain or in a blockchain system that would be useful to or interesting for libraries to think about. One of the issues with decentralized systems is who builds these, because if you don't have a central authority, then you don't have someone who's really putting in the work to build these systems. I'm hoping that some of these will actually emerge from the community over time, perhaps through some grants, because I think many of these are, I think, very interesting for information systems. So the first of these, and these will be fairly quick because I also want to talk about problems with these systems. The first of these is something simple, like provenance and the recording of provenance, right? We in the libraries, museums, and archives think about the metadata that reflects the chain of ownership of an object, but we don't have systems quite yet that do very, very robust recording of something like digital provenance, right? What happens with files as they move through organization systems, as they are stored, kept, and held by libraries? The potential for something like an automated digital provenance system, where as files move through an organization, move through the world, potentially move through the internet at large, those movements of the files could be recorded in a blockchain-like system to give us a provenance chain of those files. There's a lot of systems, a lot of projects that are being funded right now that do something very similar to this. And I'm excited by some of that potential for kind of digital historianship. Sounds like someone else is live and talking, so I apologize or at least can hear someone in the background there. So hopefully it's not too distracting for everyone. The second thing that I want to talk about is there are a large number of systems that are being built on a blockchain to attempt to move forward this idea of distributed sovereign identity. And this is, I really kind of hate the term sovereign identity because it's been co-opted in a number of ways online. But what it means is a way of authenticating online, a digital sort of identity that is controlled by the person rather than by the kind of system, right? That is that these people are taking a part in. So if you think about all of the log in with your Google ID, log in with your Facebook ID, right? So those are centralized authentication systems. With something like a blockchain system, there are projects that are attempting to build some of these now. There is the ability to build a distributed identity system that the individual controls, and the individual decides with whom to share or not share their personally identifiable information in order to then be authenticated into a digital system, right? So something like this robustly rolled out over the course of a country. I'm speaking here from a U.S.-centric point of view. I know we have people here from all over, but here in the U.S., it would allow us to do something like have a sort of universal library card where someone could have their information about their identity, their location, et cetera, and could choose to share that with any library that they walked into in order to get access to the resources involved. So it is technically possible using a blockchain system to build a a library card system that wouldn't be owned by any particular group, right? It wouldn't be a centralized system. It could be
from other people, and it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I am hearing someone. I don't know who it is.
Jason, that's coming from, we're hearing it through your computer. Do you have another program running in the background, maybe?
No, I do not. Nope. That's interesting. Okay. I will just soldier through. This idea of a universal library card, I think, could be sort of revolutionary, and I'm a big proponent of people having control over their own information, right? This is fairly common. This is actually European law, that individuals own the information about themselves and that corporations do not. That is different than here in the US, and having some neutral system, neutral in big scare quotes because technology is never neutral, but a system that is not controlled overly by a particular company or corporation would be an interesting one. I would like to see how that works out. Yeah, someone, Luis in the chat just said GDPR. Yeah, obviously, GDPR, a system that would allow people to own their own information rather than agree to give it to, or only agree to give it the pieces of it they wish to the digital entities that they want. That I think is a powerful thing, and law is slowly coming around to that conclusion as well. The third thing that I think is kind of an interesting idea for a blockchain-like system, and I know that I saw a couple of people here from OCLC, so pardon me for using the phrase "they're decentralized OCLC," but I do think there is an interesting potential for a sort of bibliographic metadata chain. That is, a blockchain is a ledger. A ledger is just structured information. Structured information is the equivalent of a database, and we could build a form of decentralized metadata chain that was world writable. That is, anyone could update it, right? Any library, any individual, it could be anyone that wanted to interact with bibliographic metadata could read and write to it. Individuals who wished to catalog from it could choose their favorite source, because all of the interactions on a blockchain are cryptographically signed by the individual that is interacting with the information. And so you could have your favorite catalogers, you could have your favorite libraries, you could have your favorite individuals out in the world that knew something about the particular bibliographic question you have, and you could just use their data. I think it's interesting. There are some huge scale problems, and there definitely, this is not an obvious win in every way. But I think that it is an interesting use of something like a blockchain, potentially, to do a distributed, decentralized metadata store that was much more broadly available to everyone. And then finally, I wanted to just mention one of the things that I think could happen in the middle of finishing up a paper, hopefully, on this topic, and that is that in the United States, again, this is a U.S. I apologize for my U.S. centricness, but here in the U.S. we have something called first sale rights, right? And first sale rights in the U.S. means that if I purchase a thing legally, if I purchase an object legally, that object could be a book or a movie or whatever, that I can then, with that physical object, do what I wish. I can resell it, I can sell it to someone else, I can loan it to someone else, and that is the entire sort of legal basis for originally Netflix, right? They bought DVDs and then they loaned them to people, and for the public library. This is the underlying legal ground that it sets on. And there are a number of blockchain programs out there that are looking at blockchain-driven DRM systems. That is, some sort of public blockchain that tracks the ownership and access to digital goods. So if I, in a near future, you could imagine that I purchase an ebook, and then my purchase of that ebook is publicly sort of noted on with a key that only I can access on a public blockchain. If there were any questions about who owned that ebook, it would be provable that I owned it because the blockchain is public and there's cryptographic signature there. That no one else could own it is the sort of key to this piece, is that no one else gets to own that thing because I have written to the blockchain my ownership of it. So if we have unique digital goods, if we have provable ownership of digital objects, I actually think here in the US we have a fairly good legal argument for having for sale rights on those digital goods, and that would change a lot of things in the publishing world. It would change a lot of things in the information ecosystem writ large. But I think that this may be a sort of reasonable legal argument to make. And I'm working with Kyle Courtney, the copyright lawyer at Harvard, on a paper on this right now. Hopefully we will have it out this fall. It's been going on way too long. But I think that there is an interesting argument to be made there. So that would be another kind of side effect of a blockchain system. This isn't to say that blockchains are all awesome. They are certainly not. There are lots of problems. One of the problems with many blockchain systems is that there is still a risk of centralization. I talked about decentralization earlier in the ability that it has to kind of spread power. Power can still cause things to be centralized even in a robustly decentralized system like blockchain. So there is still the ability for a sort of economic capture of a blockchain system, which worries me a little bit. And then very quickly in conclusion, I know we're getting very close to my time being up. We are right at the kind of absolute top of the hype cycle for blockchain. We are right at the top of the mountain of the peak of inflated expectations. This is the Gartner hype cycle chart, which shows that we will eventually get to the plateau of productivity. I think we may be slowly sliding into the trough of disillusionment because we do have a little bit of blockchain backlash at this point. But I do believe that we will get to a world where blockchain is an intrinsic piece of our digital kind of information ecosystem. This is not to say that it will be every piece. This is the paper that I always refer to in every blockchain presentation I give. Do you need a blockchain.com? Go there, read that, because the answer is often no. But where we do need them, I think what will end up happening is that blockchain is going to eventually be an underlying technology, TCP/IP, HTTP, right? No one gets excited about these. No one is hyped up about TCP/IP, but it's necessary for a digital world. And I think blockchain is going to be much the same way. We're going to get excited about the things that get built on top of it, right? The projects, the programs, and that's what the rest of this, much of the rest of this mini conference is going to be. It's going to be talking about those projects and the abilities that they have. We're not quite there yet. No one gets excited about infrastructure, exactly. We do, as Amara's law, we tend to overestimate technology in the short run and underestimate it in the long run. I think this is a fantastic quote. We are currently overestimating. I look forward to the period where I can look back at it and see that we underestimated it. And then finally, my final slide. I'm excited about these things that blockchain has the ability to do. It has the ability to remove our power centers, to democratize decisions across information flows, to reduce the friction that people have in interacting with information, and to distribute the power to control information. All of those things excite me enormously. So this is me. I am available. I am a library technology consultant. I would love to talk to you if you have questions or anything that I can help you with. And I am very excited to see the rest of today's presentations. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Jason. That was terrific. I'm going to quickly move us on because the panel is about to start. So to get to the panel, you'd close this session, folks, and then you'd go to the link on the schedule page for the panel. You'd open up a different window for that. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, everybody. Jason, I have no idea what that extra noise was.
No worries.
You soldiered through. You were great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
And Jason, you are going to pop into the closing session. So if people have another question, you might be able to have some time there.
I will absolutely do that.
Great. Thank you. Recording stopped.
Okay, folks, you'll notice that we kick you out of this room just so the recording can process.
Yeah.
Do enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks.
Steve?
Yeah.
Is it possible for me to get links to the other things? I don't think I have them.
Yeah, I'll send you the registration page. Give me 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.